Spontaneous salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Are You Saurious? Folks, oh my gosh, we have made it to episode 5 on the podcast. This is a huge moment, and what better way to bring in this episode than to have on a very, very exciting guest this evening? I have the honor of having Allison Cosett on for tonight's episode. Allison, how the heck are you tonight?
I'm pretty awesome tonight. Like I was just telling you, Spencer, I'm super happy to be here. I've been really excited all day long to have this interview. This is really cool. I'm honored to be here.
The feeling is very much mutual. We for everyone at home, me and Allison actually met on a workshop, a spur of the moment uh night, if you would call it. It was almost chance. I think you and I were talking about Allison of the stars seem to just align where we happen to cross paths, and here we are now. It's
Yeah,
kind of cool.
definitely cool. Definitely, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It was like a night that I wasn't supposed to be there, and like nobody else from your class showed up. So it was just the two of us, and it was really just like the stars aligned.
I did definitely have some moments where I was like, oh gosh, try to totally embarrass yourself. Remain
No,
calm, please.
don't worry. It is a super common thing. Like every voice actor all the time goes through that. Probably even some of the professional ones are still like, they're gonna see right through me.
They must have just a better, more they're more used to being able to keep their cool under
Hmm.
pressure.
Hmm.
After a lot of experience and being out in public,
Yeah,
they're pros at that too.
yeah,
It must
yeah,
be.
yeah. I will definitely say that it does get easier. It gets easier to mask the terror that you feel when you're doing like a live session.
Gosh, that's there's a boatload of questions I have to ask for you tonight,
All
and
right, well,
where in
let's
the
go on. Let's dive right in.
yeah, shall we? Get on your swimming cap, please.
Here we
We're going into the deep end tonight. Oh goodness. Okay. So, let's get right down into it. Allison, tell us, who are you? What are you all about?
Oh
What's your
God,
brand like? Give us the
how long?
tea.
How long you got? Um, I have had a very interesting life. I love it. I'm so grateful for it. It's definitely not at all the life that I expected. Maybe in ways it is. I let's see. Our way back in the day, I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. Born and raised in Toledo, Ohio. And when I was 14, I moved to the Buffalo, New York area, Western New York. So I went to high school here, and then I went to the University of Buffalo. I actually graduated with a theater degree that got me about as far as you would expect. It actually did come in handy. For 2 years after I graduated, I was functioning as a traveling puppeteer. It really is a job. um, by
Very
then, I had
nice.
moved out to Portland, Oregon, and I'd found this company. I don't think they're around anymore. It was called Tears of Joy Puppet Theater, and they had like two. Generally, it was two actors, two puppeteers, and a van full of puppets, and we would go all around the western states, mainly to schools, but sometimes to like community theater things and libraries and other things like that, to do a puppet show. And I mean, when I say puppet show, a lot of people, it is not what they think of. Like they think of like like the Punch and Judy. We've got a little lemonade stand, and it's just kind of like rah, 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 rah. These were like gigantic sets, and very well crafted puppets. We often had a tough time explaining that to the schools, because the schools themselves, even the schools who had us there the years before, some of them kind of figured it out, but others were just kind of like, oh, you need like 10 minutes to set up, and we're like, no, as it states in the contract, we need an hour to set up. Like we would show up at schools, and they'd be like, oh yeah, well, you're going to be performing in the gym, but they got the school, the lunch going, breakfast going on there,
Oh
and
gosh.
so then breakfast will end and we'll clean up, and you guys will have like 15 minutes to set up, and we're like, no, we need more than that, because it was really a big impressive set. And we do the show, and then travel to the next school. So I did that for 2 years, and you got the upper body strength of a champion. That was pretty awesome.
You'd never
Um,
expect. You'd
I,
never
I
expect that.
I loved it, because I mean, I grew up like middle America, like eating your standard American diet. I mean, practically Midwest, like we were Ohio. Um, I didn't work out. I was not into sports at all. So it was really cool to start working with puppets. And I'd be like, oh yeah, I don't know if you can see those, like the muscles that I like once they started. I was like, yeah, I want more of these. Um, so did that for like 2 years. So that was really cool. It was actually kind of like using the theater degree. And then I kicked around Portland for a little bit. And it was while I was living in Portland. I'm not quite sure of the year. I want to probably say like 2004, 2005 ish. Yeah, sounds about right. Um, that's when it first kind of got into my head of like I was doing the puppeteering, and one of the things that was pretty common was so we had a soundtrack of music for the puppet show, but my partner and I were the ones making all the voices for the puppets. And after the shows, people would come up to us and they were like, is it difficult to sync up the puppets to the pre-recorded voices? And we're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, you gotta match it up, probably. And we're like, no, we're doing the voices. And they're like, no, you're not. There were like 12 different characters. You two can't be doing all this. And we're like, yeah. So we'd run through the characters, and it'd be cool, because it's like their jaws would actually drop. They're like, how are you doing that, sorcerer? um but to me it was like second nature. I'm like, don't y'all make voices like on a daily basis? And they're like, no. So that was kind of my first introduction to that of like, yeah, I'm pretty good at this. And then as a matter of fact, about that same time is when Cartoon Network started to air a lot of anime, and on Adult Swim, and that was really exciting for me too, like watching that. It's interesting, like cartoons themselves never really filtered through all that much to me, but it was in watching the anime where I'm like, oh yeah, like there are people doing this and making these voices, and this is really cool, and this is exciting to me. I want to do this. But at the time, I was like on the wrong part of the West Coast, because to do that, you really needed to be either in LA or up in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I actually was like, well, I'm going to move to Vancouver, British Columbia. Concern it. Turns out it's a lot harder to move to Canada than you might think. So that didn't happen, but I did succeed in moving a little bit north, just not as far as Canada. So I went to Seattle, and I was in Seattle for 7 years. And while I was there, I tried to get into some voice acting there, but just nothing was happening in Seattle in 2005, 2006. So everything kind of fell by the wayside, and over the years I tried to resuscitate it here and there, but I didn't know the right people. I didn't know the right things to do. It just kind of died as soon as I came out of the gate. And it wasn't until about a year and a little bit more ago, like a year and 3 or 4 months ago, that I finally got out of the gate and just kind of shot out there, and at that point found the right people and found the right resources, and was able to make a career out of it. I mean, I'm still kind of in my baby stages, but it's one of those things like what I left out of that whole recap is all of the other jobs that I tried to do that didn't pan out, and kind of knowing that somewhere like deep within me. Like I tried to be like a health coach, I even got my like realtor's license at one point. I taught English overseas in Indonesia, and like all of these things were like, yeah, they were the kind of things that I was interested in, but none of them seemed right. And it wasn't until I started down the path of doing the voice acting where I'm like, hallelujah! This is absolutely it. And like I said, I went out of the gate and I have not looked back. Like it is the most amazing feeling to be absolutely sure that you're finally on the right path. So, woo, that's kind of
You've
amazing.
you found a place to call home,
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
community,
Yeah,
the voiceover community.
yeah, yeah.
And while talking a little bit about yourself and uh, being being your own business, more or less, as a voice actor, as we are our own business. Um, tell us a little bit about. I love the insignia, the logo, if you will,
Mm,
of the red
mm-hmm.
glasses, because immediately when I was introduced to your website and your page online, everyone go check it out, by the way, please. Um, the red glasses, the color especially, caught my eye immediately. As someone who does a lot of design work, I was like, ooh, very bold. And there's got to be some purpose as to why she chose those specifically to identify herself, and people have recognized you as such for that logo. So what's it all about?
Yeah, so uh, I'm I'm very lucky in that, and this is something that I want to kind of hark on for other people out there. Um, like I said, like the big background of doing this and doing this and doing this and trying this. The most magical thing is that when I finally started to do the voice acting, like it I don't want to say it all came together, but like pieces of it were suddenly made so relevant in my life. And one of those was couple years back, I tried to get going a like a murder mystery company, um, with a with some murder mysteries that I had written. I've previously written for escape rooms. Like I would be the one writing all the puzzles and the storyline and things like
What?
that. And
That
so
is
I kind of
cool.
like I've done a lot. And that one I
My
loved, I
gosh.
loved, I loved, and I wanted to turn into my own business. So I went down the roads and I worked with small business stuff and writing and stuff, and like that was the first time I made my own website. And let me tell you, there was a lot of screaming. There were a lot
Jeez.
of tears. There was a
Oh
lot of
no.
like this. Um,
I know that well. I
yeah,
know that
right.
very well.
It was really, really tricky, but I was very, very determined. I'm like, I need to know this. I know that I can outsource this, but I don't want to. I want to have control over my website. And so going through that, and again, it was one of those things. It's like the murder mystery company, like I tried my best and it just didn't work out. But again, in that light of like, well, that wasn't quite the right thing, but now I could take so many aspects of that and apply it to the voice acting. And it was great because one of the things they tell you is like, if you want to be a voice actor, like get that website up as soon as you can, get some traction, have a landing space where you can like direct people. And so I'm like, all right, done. Like, it was so much simpler the second time around. And um, and also having taken some classes on branding and color design, all that kind of stuff that is so important when you are thinking about your own brand and your website. Um, so I, I, I don't quite even remember like when the idea hit me, but so these are the sunglasses themselves, and
There they are.
I was out somewhere with my brother and his wife and my niece, and I think these were like $2 or something, and I'm like, red sunglasses for $2, sign me up. So I got them, and then I think I was just trying to come up like because it's a voice actor, everybody uses a microphone. Everybody's got like the old timey microphone, whatever, or like some notes or something like that. But there's that whole idea that is also like it doesn't have to be what you do. A big example of that is like Apple products. Who's this? You're going to name your company Apple? What do you sell? Fruit? Oh no, computers. It doesn't have to make sense as long as you can do something that's very memorable. And so, um, the whole thing with the red sunglasses is I was like, oh, I can link this back to, like I was saying, Cartoon Network and anime. The first anime to really, really inspire me was Trigun. And if you are at all familiar with Trigun, Vash the Stampede has that red coat. And so it's my little nod to Vash the Stampede and my red sunglasses. so so that's when I was just like, yeah, I definitely want to use these as my logo. And then I happen to have a very good friend in Seattle who is a graphic designer. So I reached out to him and I'm like, can you help me make this logo the best it can be? So it's fun. I'm so glad that you mentioned the color because we went back and forth and it's like, how about hashtag 0CFFF6, and then I check it out and like, well, what about hashtag, AL0021, and it's all these like points on the color graph. And so we finally came to the red that we both liked. And for a while I have it memorized, but it's been a while since I've done anything with it, so I can't quite remember what it was.
I appreciate the callback to because it doesn't get the attention it deserves, but the all the specific cue numbers for each and
Mm-hmm.
every single color on
Mm-hmm.
in known to man.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want a specific color, it has to be exactly that
Yep.
key, or else
Yep.
everything's
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
chaos.
And for a while I had that written down and it was stuck up on my computer because it's like, when you're working in my website is designed through Squarespace, and so it's like, oh, what do you want, what color do you want to make this? And I'm like, I know exactly what color I want to make this.
Say no more. I have that pulled up right here. Thank you,
Yes.
Squarespace.
Yes.
We're not sponsored by Squarespace.
No. But if you want us.
Hit both of us up. Call us. Drop us a line. It is so cool. And what was that feeling like, if I may poke a little bit into that story too? What was that feeling like for you to, since you're still building your brand and getting your name out there, what was that feeling like to get recognized by someone in a public environment, to be when someone was like, "Hey, I know
Yeah.
you. I know this red sunglasses."
Yeah,
What was
so
that
it was
like?
it was really cool. The I'll just briefly go over the story. Is that I auditioned for an audio drama, and like the guy wrote back and he's like, "Yeah, I've shortlisted you for like three of the characters," and I'm like, "Sweet." He's like, "I'd love to meet you face to face." So we got on a Zoom call and we were talking for like 20-30 minutes, and I can't remember exactly what brought it up. I mean, maybe I said something about like you can see all my CV and everything I've been on my website, and gave him the name, and he's like, wait, and he thinks about it, he's like, are you the one with the red sunglasses? And I was like, what? And I'm like, I am. He's like, yeah, I remember your website now. And I'm like, yes, branding win. And that was the first time that it kind of came back to me from a complete stranger. Like other people that I've known have been like, yeah, I went to your website and it's really cool, blah, blah, this and that. And one of the things I want to talk about too is, I come from a generation where I was kind of warned against being my true self. When I went out into the business world, and my sister, who I adore, I love dearly, but she's very I won't say business minded, but very very like there's a way to do things minded. And my email address at the time was Rat Empress. at Comcast.net, and she was like, now that you've graduated, Al Pal, you really should change that because you can't put that on a resume. And I'm like, watch me. And the same thing too with like the tattoos and things like that. And people like, don't get tattoos. You won't get a job. This and that and blah blah blah. And even that kind of thing was going through my head when I made my website, and that notion of like you have to be professional. That's the word I was looking for. My sister is very professional. Um, and and this idea that like you have to I'm a serious voice actor and this is what I can do for you. And honestly, like I think if you are going in for commercials and e-learning and documentaries and things like that, yeah, you definitely want to edge more that way, but your personality is probably that too. For me, I am certainly more drawn towards like animation and character work. I'm like, I just I just want to be me. Like, so I'm gonna write this as me because maybe with a little more pop and pizzazz and stuff. I of course like earlier on today, without the makeup on, and I had my sweatshirt on and all that. So it's not like I just kind of lounge around like this.
Sure, sure.
But that's the
You're
whole
gonna need
thing of
to you're gonna need to try a little more harder to convince me than that, Allison, because when we popped on together this evening, I kind of had a moment where I like the screen just lit up. I was like, "Oh my gosh. This is Allison is like a pro at this. She has come dressed and ready to slay on some fashion. So look out, world.
Okay, what's
Allison is here."
amazing though? This, I am not making this up. I was sitting here in my booth like 15 minutes beforehand, kind of like preparing, and my sister actually called, like the sister of the professionalism sister, and I was like, "Hey, what's up?" And she was like, "What is this, 80s night?"
Why, yes, it
And
is.
I'm like, yeah. And she's like, okay, Al Pal. And again, just like kind of different tracks of life. But all that to say that I'm so glad I went that route. Like my website really is a reflection of me. And I want to let people know that I'm fun, that I'm goofy, but I'm also professional and in my own way. And I think the website does that.
It does a perfect job. And I'm like that myself. I had actually just had a phone call earlier today where I was talking with someone, and their question to me was, bear in mind, this is a business meeting, not a regular phone call, a business meeting where someone was like, "Okay, and what is your business about? What do you like to do?" And something that I had made clear to them was, I'm someone who's very professional, someone who likes to stay on top of things and communicate and collaborate with everyone, and but at the same time, I want to be seen as a personable person. I want to be seen as fun and lighthearted and
Mm-hmm.
jovial and just professional, but also at the same time, I'm a fun guy. It's
Yeah.
like so it's nice
Yeah.
to see that there's another entrepreneur out there
Yeah.
who's has that same kind of mentality as I do.
And I think that at least from what I see, like that is something that is changing, that is adapting. Is that I think the younger generation appreciates that more, and I think it goes hand in hand because there's so many more like content creators out there who understand that like you do have to have that a little bit of that persona. You have to be like, all right, I'm gonna bring it. So I think it has become more important to be more of a presenter and more on than to be like, look at me, I'm a professional.
Definitely. And it I think that also stems from a lot of people wanting to show their true originality out
Mm-hmm.
there because
Mm-hmm.
anyone can go into a booth or onto a stage or into a business meeting and tell everyone, well, I've come in a suit and I am the most professional person you will ever see in your entire life. So hire me today.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, it's more so like, I'm someone who does this.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, oh, no one else that we've seen today has done that before.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting to
No one
know.
else has red sunglasses. Oh.
And slays them like you do. Hello.
Hmm. I have become a connoisseur. Like this is the OG. This is the original pair, but I do have a collection. So if anybody wants to send me gifts, go ahead and send me the red sunglasses, peeps.
You're gonna need to have your very own a walk-in closet
I
and
will.
dedicated entirely to sunglasses and be like,
Right.
well, check out this one of a kind sunglass closet, where
And
you can
then
see
I
all
love it
kinds
because
of
then I'll have like the museum display where it's like the
yes.
glass case, and then I'll have the OG pair just sitting there with the illuminated by a single light.
It's like the Mona Lisa, the heavenly choir
Sunglasses.
of angels singing
Hmm.
as everyone turns in awe.
I love it.
And that another question, you touched upon it earlier, actually. You mentioned Trigun was the
Hmm.
first
Love and
anime that
peace.
that really roped you in to the
Hmm.
world of anime. And also, shout out to got my boy Naruto on tonight,
Right
so
on.
coming prepared for this kind of evening tonight. Um, is there a performance from an actor or scene wise in Trigun that you've went upon your initial view or even when you watch it today where you sit in your seat and you're like, damn, that is so good. Kudos
There,
to them. Like
there,
that's oh,
there
that's good.
is, there is, and everybody watching, is probably going to know what I'm talking about, but I do not dare say it because it is a big spoiler. But
Ah,
if you know, you know, and whew, that scene. But just in general, I think the whole thing was just really fascinating because it manifests, especially the first part of the series. It just manifests as this like goofy, like almost actual like cartoon, but with just these chef's kiss breadcrumbs of what's going on. Like they're just these like lovely little insights into be like, wait a second, there's more going on than meets the eye. And it's just enough that it leads you into the second half. And then you get to the second half and you're like, what just happened? I'm scarred for life, but in a good way. So I love heavy stuff. My friends kind of make fun of me because I'm all like colors and rainbows and like, let's be optimistic, but I also have a very dark side, um because I believe in that balance. It's like try to be optimistic, but you know what? Shit's gonna happen. I don't know, can I curse on this podcast?
yeah, yes,
Okay.
you can. It is
Okay.
welcome here.
Shit's gonna happen, and that's okay. Like that's the world, that's the balance of the world. So the more you can like make friends with the darkness and understand it, the better off you are. So I love like deep dark moralistic experiences, and that's Trigun, and it's like, hey, you want to see this goofy anime about this goofy guy that does silly things? Well, guess what? So we're gonna flip it on its head, and it's become this like very deep, journey into morality, um, and that stuff gets me all the time. I mean, I don't like big true fans are gonna notice the Attack on Titan posters here, and maybe even the Attack on Titan. Uh,
That's
Actually, this one is from Attack on Titan too, so that's you can. I'm a bit of an Attack on Titan fan too.
that's that's the coolest part is when we met each other, I had that moment of, where I didn't want to totally out myself as a total nerd, but in the back of my mind, I was thinking to myself, "Oh my gosh, she has a lot of Attack on Titan posters. Do I bring this up in the middle of a workshop or like how do I go about this?" Until Angela was like Angela, our instructor, she was like, "Well, what's all those pictures in the back?" I was like, "Yes, an inn. What is it about? Tell us."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's one of the things. My best friend, who I adore it, and I actually got him to watch Trigun, and he really liked Trigun, and I'm like, oh, now you can watch Attack on Titan, and he watched the first episode, and he was like, bail. but but he knows, he's like, if we're out somewhere, because I've got like a green hoodie with the wings of freedom on the back, and like, once in a while somebody will stop me and be like, oh, Attack on Titan. He's like, please don't get her started. We will be here all day. So I love it when people ask me about it, or we start to get into a philosophical debate, because it's just so good.
The charm that comes with watching a lot of anime
Mm-hmm.
that you don't quite get. I think you had we'd both talked about this, but you had gone into uh very good detail about it. Is the difference for you between watching regular Western animation here in the US, I should say, and anime. Uh,
Yeah.
those two conflicting styles of storytelling and
Mm-hmm.
animation and
Mm-hmm.
topics.
I mean, I'd be hesitant to say conflicting, because it's all just storytelling, right? And I recently, it's interesting that you bring it up, because I was just the other day watching a little snippet of a video, and I can't remember. It's just some guy who comes up on my Facebook a lot, and he was kind of drawing attention to the fact that in the U.S., many of our stories are built around the underdog, who there's some kind of oppressive force, and then the underdog has to, come into his power and save the day. It's kind of the classic hero trope, but the West, or like the US, really, really loves it. And we see that a lot, and we see that a lot in our cartoons. That's kind of our bread and butter, especially when we're younger. Is like, this is clearly the bad guy, and this is clearly the good guy. And oh no, maybe the good guy won't make it. Just kidding. Of course, the good guy makes it. The end. And I think that narrative for a lot of people is very comforting. And I wouldn't ever disparage that. Like, somebody that is what they want in their media. That's what they want to consume. That's great. But I have a dark, shriveled soul, and I want to see actual conflict. And again, it's funny that it's even more so that, like, I want to know the motivation of the bad guy, because so much animation is like, this is the bad guy. You can tell because they're old. You can see the bones in their cheeks. Like, oh, they're so bad. They're so evil. Um, and they never really go into why are they evil, and that is my favorite thing to explore in not just animation, but in literature and media in general. What makes someone bad? What makes someone good? How do we come by those labels? And everyone's villain can be someone's hero, and someone's hero can be some villain. Kind of like Attack on Titan. That's why I loved it so much. And again, I love it. It was almost a Trigun thing. It's like, hey, you want to watch an anime about like big giant humanoid looking things? And just it's always obvious who the good guy is and who the bad guy is, right? It's obvious. Oh, we got him. Guess what? Surprise. So that kind of thing is what I love to watch. And that's the kind of thing that you don't tend to ever see in any sort of cartoons that were produced in the U.S. And we're starting to see more like I know it wasn't completely US based, but like Arcane, again, kind of the same
Godsend
idea, like
show. Godsend
absolutely
show.
beautiful.
I
And
can't wait
and
for season
again that
two.
whole idea of like you think this is the bad guy, but why? Let's actually look at their story and you know explain why this is going on, and like nobody is all good, nobody's all bad, that kind of gray area, which and I don't know the quite the background of like why that is, why there is a difference between the styles of animation, why that's something that you see a lot of time in like stuff that like anime stuff from Japan and that versus stuff in the US. This is all about like like let's be cute. um
Fairy tale endings. They all live
Exactly,
happily ever
exactly.
after.
Which is again, which is really funny because like so many of the fairy tales when they were written were these morality tales, like the horrible things happened, and then somehow when they got to the U.S. and were like, oh, we can't have this happen. Let's put a pretty bow on it and make it into like this cutesy thing, which I guess if you like that kind of thing. But to me, and one more thing is like the medium of animation. There, like, you can do anything with animation, and yet the US was just so happy to just make it into like, oh, here's a talking thing and another talking thing, they're doing this and this and this and that. So I do like that it is tending towards the more cinematic, because yeah, you can do anything with it. So yeah, go ahead and do stuff with it, like make me go wow.
Blow my mind,
Oh my,
please.
exactly, exactly. But and again, now that I've seen Attack on Titan, I don't know if anything can ever top that. But I'm gonna keep looking.
You hear that? You hear that, writers and animators? You're gonna have to try and top. You're gonna have to try
I'm gonna
and
have to top
top that
that.
one.
I
Bl-
tell you what, I am in the process of writing an audio drama, and there will be days where I actually like get get down because I'm like, it's not as good as Attack on Titan. Like, of course, I'm like, I've not like written an audio drama before. I was like, of course, it's not going to be that good, but like, sometimes it gets in
what?
my head.
One of these days, we're gonna have some incredible stuff. That like, one of these days, I have just this feeling in my gut that you're gonna pump something out that will knock the socks off of people.
Well,
So
and
keep at it.
I also think that it's important to know that like you don't have to be that. Like that was one of the things that kind of stopped me from voice acting, or rather like putting myself out there for the longest time, is thinking I'm not good enough and comparing myself and where I was to the professionals and saying, I'm not good enough. I don't sound like that. Like I can't do this until I'm at that level. And I learned that that is completely not true. Like they're at that level because they've been doing it for so long. And that when you start out, and to me, it's like starting out meant like taking classes, but no, like starting out means actually doing things and participating in anything that you can get your voice in, anything you can get your hands on, anything you can get your voice in, because everything that you do is going to get you stronger. So I think that like it is 100% perfectly fine to put something out there that in the back of your mind you're thinking like, oh, it's not as good as this absolute peak of what I want to be. It's fine that you're here, because if you just keep doing more and more, eventually you'll get there. And it might not even be the thing you think of. It's something people have put out there like, I don't know, maybe people will like this, and suddenly it becomes like, and and the beautiful thing is that it means different things to different people. So it's like I have met people who absolutely adore things that I have thought were utter trash. And vice versa. There's, you put something out there and somebody out there is probably going to love it. And that's what I always like to keep in mind, is like I'm writing it or I'm doing it for that one person. And hopefully it's more than one, but there's probably going to be at least one that is like, yeah, this really hits me. This really resonates with me. I love this.
That was an awesome message, and I think one that I also I also needed to hear as well. So I had a very inner body moment where I kind of was kind of having a talk with myself, being like, you know what,
Yeah.
that's it's so true, and it's so nice
Yeah.
to be reminded of that kind of stuff.
Allison is
Um,
so smart.
yeah, um, you're a genius. Um, it's solely because I definitely think I've talked about this a couple times on the podcast with previous guests, where we're in an age where people are we get this feeling of paralysis of we are always playing the terrible game of comparing ourselves to other people like, oh, look what they're doing and what they're doing, and oh, that's really good and that's super good, and it's like, oh, I'm not that. It's
Mhm.
and it makes us, rather than do something, we do nothing, and
Mhm.
that's never good.
Yeah. 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 I 100%. Like, I'm one of those people that I kind of want to know everything first. I want to um, do all the research and take all the classes and then start the thing. Um, Luckily, I don't know what wires crossed or something, but that didn't quite happen with voiceover. It's like somewhere inside of me I knew that I was ready to just like, launch myself. But with a lot of other things, like for a little while, I thought like, oh, maybe I'll get into estate sales, because I love like antiques and stuff, and I love going through old things, and just I love the idea of it basically. But I was stymied because I'm like, I don't know the first thing to do, and my friend was like, well, just go, do it, and just go find somebody who's needs somebody to do an estate sale, and just jump right in there. And I'm like, oh my god, no, that sounds horrible. But that's actually how he operates. He's just like, all right, let me just jump in, and I'll like do it, as I sees it, calls it as I sees it, and it works really well for him. But for me, definitely not. But I think for voice acting, something inside of me was just like, "You're ready." And in fact, I was spurred on by the universe, I suppose, because my birthday, which is February 6th, uh, so
Yay,
last year,
February babies.
you too.
And February 24th.
Oh my god, of course, I love it. So my birthday, February 6th. So this was of 2023. I mean, I'm in Western New York, right? And I mean, it's interesting that we just had an earthquake in New Jersey, because on February 6th, 2023, there was an earthquake in Western New York, and it was like 6:20 a.m. Like, I am never up at 6:20 a.m., but I was kind of like, I don't know, just like the dogs that get kind of like squirrely. Like, I woke up in my bed. I'm like, why am I up at 6:20? This is weird. And then all of a sudden, like, the earth started shaking, and I was like, this is even weirder. and, but I really felt it was like the universe being like, yes, you finally figured it out. You're on the right track. Also, it was just an earthquake, but it was just really, it was neatly timed.
Not only was like the universe shaking you to be like, yes, you have found it, you're on the right path, but even got Mother Earth like
Mm-hmm.
getting into this action, being like,
Yeah.
you found it. I'm so happy for you.
Yes. I'm so happy
Oh,
for you able to shake the earth.
yeah. The
Mm-hmm.
cosmic coincidences. There, we never know why they happen, and we certainly wish we knew all the time. Of, am I going the right
Mm-hmm.
way, or am I totally leading into a dead end? Or
Mm-hmm.
it's we want to know, but
Yeah.
also there's that part where it kind of like the mystery. It's like, what
Mm-hmm.
will happen? But
Mm-hmm.
also, I wish I
Yeah.
knew it was going to happen.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And I mean, certainly the the tendency to kind of look into things so much. I mean, it's just like on the one side, I'm just like, yeah, it was just an earthquake, but on the other side, I'm like, or was it? I'm chomping myself like I'm ruining my brain because I'm in Buffalo, right, which is like directly in the path of the eclipse that's going to happen on Monday, right?
Can't
And I'm
wait. Earthquakes
yes,
and eclipses.
yeah,
Hooray.
yeah. But like, and we're like right there. And I, from the from a very very young age, if any of you out there have seen the movie A Watcher in the Woods, that was my favorite movie as a kid. I was obsessed with this movie, and it one of the plot lines has to do with solar eclipse. And so since then, I've wanted to see a solar eclipse, but I haven't. I've always been in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I'm like, this is it. This is my moment. But it's really it's 50-50. Like they have no idea. They're like, well, maybe clouds, it might be sun. We don't know until like 3:18 and 30 seconds on Monday. So I'm
Crossing
it's
your
I
crossing your fingers, please,
but
universe,
also
please
knowing
work.
that there's literally nothing I can do. There's like no mad, like all the good luck charms or all the like the non-rain dances or anything like that. Like it's not gonna matter. Nature doesn't give a fuck about you. It's gonna do what it's gonna do, and I'm really hopeful. So
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed that things play to your advantage
I
because
hope so.
as 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 scary as they may be to be like, oh, do I watch an eclipse or should I play it safe and just not run that risk? At the same time, it's kind of like this is a cool phenomenon.
I mean, I've
Doesn't
I've
happen.
had I've had the eclipse glasses like ready for like months. I am so ready. I've made a box to watch it. Like I'm one of those who it's been really kind of cute, like watching Buffalo like realize that there was going to be an eclipse here because I have been marking this on the calendar for years, my friend, years, and finally they're like, oh, what there's an eclipse. Well, isn't that cute? And I'm like, and as a matter of fact, my friend was reading an article and he was like, yeah, I read this article that said like people are gonna cry during it. And I'm like, yeah, you're looking at one. I am going to cry. I'm going to cry if there's clouds. I'm also going to cry if I actually get to see it. So either way, come Monday, I'm crying because I am
I
a
am
big softie.
living proof. I'm living proof of those articles, my friends. You don't have to
Yes,
worry about any speculation whatsoever.
I can guarantee you, I've looked into the future. I don't know what the skies will look like, but I know that my mascara will be running.
Hopefully you've got waterproof. That's all I can
Right,
say.
right.
Hopefully you've got waterproof. I've come ready for this emergency for an emergency. Here we
Yeah,
go.
I'm gonna cry, but I'm gonna look good while I'm doing it. Of course, you have to have it on Instagram, and either they're like, I'm crying because this is the most amazing event of my life, or like, what, sad trombone.
I'm gonna cry, but I'm gonna make it look good, not trashy. Okay, everybody.
Exactly, exactly. What
Ah,
else you got for
yes.
me?
This is a very, very good one that I wanted to bring up
Yeah.
because you had talked a little bit about planning as someone who likes to plan things in advance and be ready. For those who are for those who are starting out their voiceover journey, if they're looking to do voiceover work, would you say for any people who are curious or hesitant whatsoever that taking a course will guarantee them future success or growth? What do you have
Oh
to
my
say about that, Allison?
god. How much time do we have? All right, I could go for hours about this, but I'll try to keep it succinct. Um, First of all, of course, there are no guarantees anywhere. So if you see any course that is guaranteeing that you can like break into voiceover, do not trust it because there are no guarantees in this business. Um, and having said that, there are a lot of good courses out there. I am not personally familiar with any bad courses necessarily. I've heard that they're out there. I'm sure I've seen them, but I think that I've had such good guidance that I was just able to, like, scroll right past. Um, what I would say is that there are the VO community is unbelievable. They are amazing. They are some of the nicest, kindest, most genuine people that I have ever met, and they're more than happy to help you out if you have any questions. Um, so what I would personally recommend is there are like Discord servers. I know Astoria Redhead has a Discord server, and Chris Greenfield has one. VOs of TikTok on the Discord server, and
Love that man. Love that
yeah,
man so
absolutely. And
much.
if you are thinking about getting into voiceover, join one of those because they're both extremely good and they have people on there that can steer you in the right direction and tell you, used to be like, oh, I saw so and so is doing this course. Has anybody worked with them? Has anybody taken this course? And they can give you actual like good insight into whether or not a course is good or not, because there's a lot of stuff out there and things to look for, like, yeah, that guarantee. Also, if anybody's ever, if any course ever says it's easy to break into, no, do not believe it. Run fast in the other direction. It is so rewarding. It is such a beautiful field to be in, but it is not easy in any stretch of the imagination. A lot of people think you just come on in and you're standing in front of the mic and you're like, I'm a funny character. And there is so much more. Like we were just talking about, like I have my own website that I had to make and develop. That I have to be my own boss. I have to be the one who is being the taskmaster, who is finding auditions, who is, establishing communications with things all over the place, who is, getting the work done on time, who, you have to know how to like edit the software and things like that. And then there's marketing. There's so much that you have to do to be a voiceover person, that anybody who says it's easy, it's just, oh, there's so much involved.
I've seen myself, and I can vouch. I can also vouch that doing voiceover work, and as you said, everyone thinks it's like a la di da. I'll just come in behind a mic and I'll do a little funny voice, and that's all I have to do. No exerting any and too much energy whatsoever. But that is totally wrong. Um, I've seen people who I've seen stage actors and people who perform who are very do a lot of physical comedy, or they do some film perhaps, who I've seen interviews with them, and they've told the people that's interviewing them, I'm I was not prepared for voiceover work
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
all I thought that it was using my voice to
Mm-hmm.
be able to be a character. However, it's because I'm using my voice, and I can only use my voice to become a character. It takes about 50 times more energy
Mm-hmm.
in order to get into to become that to be that role and
Mm-hmm.
to do your job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of a nice humbling moment, I suppose you could
Yeah.
say, for them to be like, respect for
Yeah.
voice
Yeah.
actors.
Well, it's absolutely a skill in and of itself. Um, like apart from even the different genres, and by that I mean, like, if you're doing a commercial, it's going to sound, your delivery is going to sound different than if you're doing e-learning, than if you're doing animation. And even within animation, you have animation that is like super high energy, over the top, all of the characters are big, rah, rah, rah. And then you have animation that is much more grounded. And maybe it's much more grounded, but it's still just a little bit quirky. But it still needs to sound pretty grounded. And then you have things like, for a lot of the times, for like video games, where they want completely grounded, like you are a character, like in a drama. So you have to know where it's going to be, what it's going to be like, what kind of character do you want, and there's just like there's so much to think about and adapt to. And even for me, having a theatrical background, which super duper helps if you want to be a voice actor, it's so different because when you're on stage and you can look somebody in the eye and you're responding to them because you're actively listening to their lines and your responses are coming from hearing their lines. When you're doing voice acting, once in a while you get to have a live session where you can hear the other person, but a lot of the times you don't. So you have to hear in your head, you have to see everything in your head, because you are in a 4 foot by 4 foot booth, and suddenly you have to be in this scene responding as though you were having a conversation, and that definitely is a skill that you have to develop. Like, even if you come from an acting background, it's still going to be a learning curve. And one thing too that is interesting to me, that I was just actually thinking about it just recently, is how it's one thing to watch a cartoon and imitate the voices and think to yourself, yes, I can make these voices. That's awesome. You can make those voices, but you're actually just recreating those voices. So it's a very, very different thing to get a sheet of dialogue and make that piece of dialogue come to life. So if the character comes in and says, like, I'm here, what's going on, y'all? Like, you can read it as like, I'm here, what's going on, y'all? Which is what you often find with people, like, or even if they're trying to do it in a voice, they're like, I'm here, what's going on, y'all? Like, it still lacks that like physicality of somebody bursting through the door and yelling it. There's two different things: recreating what somebody has already done and creating that character from the ground up, which is in a
And
booth.
and also, something else that is to be noted is, please, 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 for all those aspiring actors and voice actors out there, if you ever want to go with a special voice for a character, and I mean a special voice, like an accent, you change your pitch, you bring or you bring it down. You have to be able to sustain that voice, because I will say that I've made the decision quite a few times where people will ask me, okay, here's a few lines of dialogue. Can you go ahead and give us a couple reads, and we'll give you some feedback. And I would find, as I'm like halfway, usually halfway, around the halfway point, I definitely have noticed the most times when things start going to shit. And um, I can't hold it for much longer, because it'll either I'll strain myself, or it'll hurt, or sometimes it's even just hard to find again if
Mm-hmm.
you've taken a moment of pause where you're like, uh-oh,
Mm-hmm.
how did I do that the first time?
Yep. Yeah, that is probably because I have a having a big range is a double-edged sword. Uh, because that happens to me quite often. It's just like I've just completely ready, like, because there's so many, like, you can drop it in your chest, you can, way up here, up high, but in, like, you can bring it forward so it's like this, or something back here like this. There's so many options, and it's like you're crafting a character and you're like, haha, I've got this voice. And yeah, you're like, oh, I gotta go pee, so you go and you come back and you're like, what the hell was I doing? And you try to, it's like, no, that wasn't right. Yeah. So but and you're definitely right, with the vocal stuff. Especially if you're just starting out, it's interesting because it's one of those things where so working as a puppeteer, we would do an hour-long show. Sometimes we would do 2 shows in a day, and it was like nothing. And then when I found that maybe there would be a holiday, like the schools would break for Christmas, and we'd come back, and I would do a show, and my voice would hurt. So I think there always is that you've got to balance between, like, yeah, when you first start, you're going to have some fatigue. Absolutely. And it's kind of like building your muscles and stuff. It's just like you can go to the gym and you can work out, and yeah, your muscles are going to be sore. But as soon as there's like pain, that's when you know you've pressed it too far. So I think it's like it's perfectly natural when you're, just starting out. And especially if you're doing like long form, like I do an audio series, and I'll be like reading for an hour, and even for then, like, I'll still have just a little bit, but I know that that's because, again, like I am still within like the first 2 years of this career. So it's like I know the more I do it, the stronger and stronger it's going to get. So it's that balance of like, yeah, like push it to the point where it's just like maybe like a little soreness, again, like you just went to the gym. But if you ever feel actual pain, that's when you've gone too far.
I I've also I believe it or not, I think that the night that we met was when I brought to the attention of Angela, who has done this for an extensive amount of time in this business. That was the night where I was doing some takes of a certain scene slash song, and I remember that I was so frustrated because I had that one perfect take that I did, and when I tried to replicate it on camera the second time, I was doing it like 50 times and I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
happy how it came out. Either I'd say one thing wrong, I'm like, damn it, now I got to start all over again,
Mm-hmm.
or I would crack or
Mm-hmm.
something. I could feel my throat was like, okay, please stop. But I'm like, no, I
Mm-hmm.
have to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But that warning of that could permanently damage your vocal
Mm-hmm.
cords kind of really the reality hit me of like, oh man, I really could hurt myself.
Mm-hmm.
Scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't I have ridiculous vocal cords. I don't know. I don't know how I have it.
In a good
In
way.
a
In a good
good
way.
way, in a good way. Like I noticed that
Fantastic.
when I was a kid, like I used to go to concerts and I'd be like, I'm gonna try to lose my voice, and I would just scream my head off, and the next day I'd be like,
Oh my
hey, I'm out.
gosh.
I just feel it'd be like a little gravelly, but nothing else. And so that's why I've definitely try to steer in towards extreme vocals. And I have taken some classes on extreme vocals. And I love extreme vocals because they're amazing to do. But I definitely would caution people, like, make sure you take some courses and you know what you're doing to make them. But especially when you get into like fry screams and things like that, if you're doing it right, it sounds amazing, and it actually feels amazing too. There's that like getting it out and just like committing to it that feels amazing. But yeah, I got lucky with my vocal cords. I don't know what's going on in there. I don't know if it's gonna come around to bite me, but I don't think so, because I never, again, like I'll get a little bit sore, especially if I've been talking a bunch or like yelling a bunch. But it never gets to that point where it's like, oh, it hurts. I will say I've got the little Vicks. I think you're supposed to put like medicine in it, but it also, you can use it just as it is. You put water in it and then it like steams up the vapor, and that's
Oh,
nice. Yeah, that's highly
I know
recommended.
I know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what you're talking about. Rather than back in the day when the Vapo Rub, when you had to put it on your chest when you're
Exactly,
feeling
exactly.
congested or
Yeah.
sick, that now they just casually have I don't know what exactly you would call those things. The best thing I could relate it to is like an air freshener, where it's just like, oh, cool, just let it sit here and it'll
Yeah.
fill the air with these cooling,
Menthol.
healing reagents. None of that messy stuff where you're like, ew, I
Yeah.
slept wrong and now it's
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah. That's always fun with the tattoos. It's like, oh, I slept and now my pillow has the wings of freedom on it.
Please tell me something like that has never happened where there was any kind of work ruined or anything like that for
Nothing
any of
has
the
ever been ruined, but there have been the times where like some ink has gotten onto the sheets and stuff, and it's just that's what happens when you have as many tattoos as I do. Like, stuff happens.
It's inevitable. Sadly,
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
inevitable. Speaking of a little more about you. If I can go way back, let's rewind all the way back. Some
Okay.
of you keen listeners may be a little bit curious as to why earlier, Allison, your email was Rat Empress, and you have shown me, and you post on your social media
Mhm.
all of your adorable little critters, and I love them so much. They're so cute. Can you tell us a little bit about how you found your love for rats and who your rats are, please.
Yeah.
Give us the tour. Give us the works.
Yeah. So, when I think it was like 18 or 19, and I wanted a pet mouse. And I bothered my mother for years. I'm like, oh, please let me have a mouse. Please let me have a mouse. And she just said, no, 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 no. And finally, she's like, okay, fine. I'm sick of you trying to, convince me to do this. So just go get your mouse. So I went to the pet store and I want a mouse, and like it's kind of those turning points in your life, because if I would have gotten a pet store employee who is a little less caring, they would have been like, yeah, here's the mice. But this girl was like, oh, are you sure you want a mouse? And I'm like, I'm not now. She said
Not with
that.
that tone.
Not
What does that
exactly.
mean?
And she's like, mice are really they don't make the greatest pets. I'm like, oh well, so what do you recommend? She's like, how about a rat? And I'm like, well, oh, okay. I mean, show them to me. And as soon as I saw them, like something in my heart just went ping, and it was love at first sight. So I brought two of them home, and they were in a box. And my mom was like, all right, let me see them. And I'm like, oh. And so I opened the box. My mom looks in. She says, aren't those a little big for mice? And I'm like, yeah, they're rats. And now, where we grew up in Toledo was this old house, and she had worked for years to like keep rats out of the house. And she's like, and you just brought them into my house. Fantastic. She's like, if you take them up to your room, they don't leave your room. If they ever get out, I'm gonna kill you. I love my mom. She was amazing. She was amazing. But like, rats in
But
the house. And this was like
have motherly love.
1980, no, 1990s, the 8, something like that. But by the end of the night, she had her face pressed up against that cage, and she was like, "Hey, can we give him another snack? Oh, they're so cute." So they
Oh.
won her over very quickly. And again, I think I was like 19 at the time, so that was a long, long time ago. And they've been in my life pretty much ever since. When I did do I taught English in Indonesia for like 2.5 years. So during that time, obviously, I didn't have any, but ever since getting back to the US, I think there was like a year where I thought I was going to move and do other things, but finally I was like, I can't stand not having any rats anymore. So now it's to the point where I have eight. I have eight of my darling buddies. They're all females because people breeding like rats is a thing, and if I were to put a male in there, I would soon have a lot of rats. Like, there's no way to not have that happen unless you neuter the boys or spay the girls, which you can do, but just get all of one sex. Like, that's the easiest. So I have all girls, and if you can think of a cage that is big enough for 8 rats, okay, now double it, and then take that and double that. This is massive. So if anybody out there knows about the Critter Nation, I have like a double Critter Nation, but like the partition is removed, so it's actually like a quad Critter Nation. So this thing is enormous. It's like a rat mansion. It takes up most of my bedroom, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
It's like a
And
resort. It's like
yeah,
a it's like
exactly.
a it's
Yeah,
like a it's like a big resort for all of them.
and there are hammocks, there are like little nets that they can crawl across, there are hideaways, there are boxes. It really is, it's like rat heaven. Um and 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 yeah, like,
It's
if
wonderful.
anybody wants to
I've
see
seen
them, i'm
pictures.
i
It's
am
wonderful.
super super easy to find on all of social media. I'm Allison Cossett on Instagram, Allison Cossett VO on TikTok, and I do post a lot. I I, I think I end up posting more rat stuff than I do VO stuff. So if you like rats, that's where you can see them.
You're missing out. You're missing out is what I
They
have to
really,
say.
I love almost more than anything. I love that they have become more and more accepted. Back in the, again, I started collecting rats in the late 1990s, and at that time, people would be like, what, you have what as a pet? That's fucked up, like that's disgusting. And the even people who didn't say that, they'd be like, oh, you got rats, okay, oh, let me tell you the story about this time I killed a rat. And I'm like, how do you think this is appropriate? It's like, oh, you got a dog, oh,
The
let me tell you
time.
about the time I hit a dog with my car. Like, why are you doing this? Like, people just didn't really think it through. They were just like, oh, let me tell you a story about a rat. And
It's
so it's
their neurons activated. They heard the word
exactly, they're
rat,
like,
and it's
rat.
like something I can talk about that's relevant to this.
Exactly.
You
So
should have kept that to yourself, sweetie.
I know. So I'm very happy to see that they're becoming more popular, and I love it that, like, I have never, nobody has ever said anything terrible. Like, when I post, I know that it's going to be like, oh my god, they're adorable, and things like that, which means a lot to me.
They are. They're all so cute, and they're all just so they're little
I
tiny
like to think
fluffy
so.
potatoes, and I love it.
Yes.
I love it. What are their names? Because you said that you have 8 of them. What are
I
their
have
names?
8.
Introduce us to the Rat Pack.
So 3 are the elder rats. Little caveat about rats is, the big downside to rats is that they don't have very long lifespans. Their lifespans are about 2 years, give or take. So I have had a lot of rats in my life. But the group I have now, I have 3 elder rats, which means they're about a year and a half old, and that's Hamish Hambone Jones. She's, oh my, you
Oh,
jump on Instagram right now. She is so cute. My friend calls her a little doll. She's got these big eyes and these Dumbo ears. Oh my god, Hamish Hambone Jones. I call her the Meech. It's a long story, but she's my Meech. Then her sister is Captain Nemo Cheeto. We call her the Cheats. She's Cheats. And then I also call her Cheats McGeester. So yeah, y'all just missed a great photo where I took a picture of her hindquarters, and it was Cheats McGeester's keister on Easter. Oh, that's
yes.
that's the kind of quality content you get if you subscribe to me. And then we have
So
their
that
friend.
means all the more reason to give you a follow. Hello, everyone
Exactly.
watching. Go ahead, please.
Then we have their friend, Sparts. And so those are the 3 elders. And then we have the group. I got 5, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect because I got them all at once. So they are, to no one's great surprise, they are Aaron, Mikasa, Armin, except I use the Japanese pronunciation of Armin, so she's Arumi,
Oh, oh.
Arumi. And then I have, of course, Levi and Ervin. And so those are my
Gotta,
8.
gotta give some love and callbacks to Attack on Titan. Like, hello. It's a
Absolutely. I was like, there's
carry
5
on
of
with you.
you. This is perfect. Actually, I will say they started with the 4, and then I realized everybody but Ervin, and then I saw Ervin's picture from my breeder, and like, she's got odd eyes, so she's got one red eye and one black eye, and I just kind of knew in my heart, I'm like, I need an Ervin. You are my Ervin, and so I was just like, I will take you.
Today is your lucky day, sweetheart. You are
These
now
are lucky, and
Ervin.
it's like, have you seen where you go? I'm like, yeah, my rats are lucky. And I give them all the snacks. Like, not, I've definitely seen people, because rats, oh my, they are so food motivated, so they can get fat very, very easily. So you have to be a little bit cautious with it. But one of my favorite things to do every morning is I prepare a little dish of mixed vegetables for them, and I just like sit
Aw.
there and I watch them, and they rats do this, the cutest thing. They'll take a pea and they'll bite the outer shell, and then they'll smoosh it, so they eat the inner, like the inner pea, and then they'll discard the shell and move on to the next pea. And so there'll be all these pea shells lying around, And then once all of the pea innards have been consumed, then they'll start to eat the outer shells.
That is
Fun fact.
amazing. It
I got all the
it's
fun facts.
it's just once again such a great showcase that animals are just they're
Mm-hmm.
so smart and
Yeah.
they're smart in terms of being able to navigate around the world, how to survive, but
Mm-hmm.
also they have
Rats,
these
particularly.
cool
Yeah.
little they have these cool all of them have these cool little tools at their
Yep.
disposal to be like, "Look, I know just how to get
Yeah.
work out this problem here."
There's a great video that I posted where they had like a kind of an igloo shaped hide made of fabric. And they would sometimes go in and out, but not often. And I happened to have this oat canister, and I cut the bottom out of the oat canister so it became this tube, and I realized it was like the exact size of the opening of this hidey. So I'm like, I'll just see what happens. And I put the tube in, and suddenly it became like the place to be, right? And I kept noticing them going in and out. And I was just like, that's weird though, because like rats usually want an exit point. They prefer to spend a lot of time in places that have an entry and an exit. It's just part of their nature. So the one day I actually like picked it up to see what was going on there and realized that in the back where I can't see, they had chewed a hole. And so they could go in and out, and yeah, they know exactly what they're doing.
A clever girl moment for sure to be
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh
Mm-hmm.
my god,
I'm like, this
who
explains
would
it. Oh, it's just like
who would have
and I
thought?"
thought it was like a clown Heidi. I'm just like, I see just like 8 of you going in. How do you fit in there?
It's truly like you just said a clown car type situation. How the heck
Yeah.
are you all fitting in there?
Yeah.
Uh,
Aha.
sorry kids, but your magic trick has been debunked.
I
I now
I
know the
gotcha.
secrets.
Yeah, right?
Oh, that's so cute that it's always nice to see that also a universally human trait that we all have
Mm-hmm.
is to give all of we start with our pets and we have one name for them, but then slowly it becomes another and then
Yep.
another and then
Yep.
another.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Just like the evolution of the
Without
name.
fail. Got a couple more for you tonight,
Yeah.
Allison, if you don't mind.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we've talked about it a lot tonight, and believe me, you and I feel we could have an entire separate episode exclusively about anime.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what would you say? Because we have talked a little bit about what the kinds of story, the flow of the story that
Mm-hmm.
really leads to the liking of it. But is there something that you'll be able to pick up on almost immediately about anime, or whether it be something visually or something audibly in terms of the performances, where you'll be able to pick up on this is going to be one that I like, or do you sometimes have
Yeah.
your expectations been subverted?
That's a really interesting question. I think I'm gonna have to go with usually I don't have a clue. um, Mostly because I I really appreciate being surprised, and the whole thing about Trigun and Attack on Titan as well, and even a lot so with Arcane. Like one of the things with Arcane is like I thought I knew exactly where it was going. Attack on Titan, one of my favorite memes ever is it shows the 4 posters of Attack on Titan. And underneath the first one, this one, it says, I'm pretty sure I know where this is going. And then under the next 3, it's got one of those bracket things and it says, no, I fucking don't. And I have to be honest, when I first started watching Attack on Titan, it was because um, I first became interested in anime, like I said, Adult Swim, Cartoon Network. But then I lost my access to cable, and so I mean I wasn't like crazy enough about anime to like really get into it. So it was always kind of on the back burner. I should, these are interesting things, but I don't have the ability to access it. So when I started voice acting again, I was like, I this is something that really intrigues me. I need to learn more about it. So that's when I got a Crunchyroll subscription and started actively watching more anime. And around the same time, I took a course with one of the ADR, that's like dubbing engineers for Crunchyroll. And it's a very comprehensive course. It was like over the course of like it was like an 8-hour course over the course of a couple of weeks. And he had worked on the last season of Attack on Titan. So he would reference it sometimes. And so it stuck in my head. I'm like, oh, Attack on Titan. Okay, well, so then when it came to, I think I finished up, I finished up watching Chainsaw Man, which I also loved. And then I'm like, okay, what am I going to watch next? And I'm like, okay, well, Jose's always talking about Attack on Titan, so I don't know, I'll give that a try. And honestly, when I started it, I wasn't paying that much attention. Like, it was kind of neat. I liked, like, it was kind of like dark and like grisly. So it was just enough that it was like drawing me in. Um, but a lot of it's interesting. A lot of the spoilers that people are like, yeah, I saw that one coming. I didn't see that one coming because I wasn't really paying enough attention. So it really took me by surprise when it finally, it was just like, because I'd be doing other things while, watching it, or, just like not completely. And finally, like, then it started like, whoa, whoa, oh, oh, oh. And but what's really amazing is that even for the people who watch it, like I got to the end and I just press play again. I'm like, I need to watch that again. And I know even the people who are paying attention, once you get to the end, the beginning becomes a totally different narrative. And so I watched it 3 times in a row. While kind of watching other things too, but like that's how much it was like, wow, wait, because all these pieces that you're putting together. So I did not see that one coming at all. And I think a lot of times with stuff like that, I think because there's so much schlock, I don't want to say schlock because it's like, again, it's somebody else's favorite thing, but there's a lot of maybe shallow is a better word. There's a lot of shallow stuff. Even anime, there's a lot of shallow anime out there, and you never know. Like, I'm starting to figure it out a little bit more based on what I see from other people and what other people value. So it's like when I come in to watch, whatever, it's like, okay, I know I'm in for something. Like, I recently finished up Death Note, and it's like, when you're starting Death
That's a
Note,
good
that,
one.
like this is held in a lot of high regard by a lot of people. So, it's like, all right, I'm gonna try to focus a little bit more. But yeah, I just I got I recently started watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I was not at all prepared for how glorious it is. Like, I just thought it was going to be another regular anime, and I'm like, what am I watching? I am so here for this. Who is the demographic? That's what I want to know. I know it's me, but like, how is this like as well known as it is? Because I'm just like, who likes this other than me and all the other weirdos? But it's fantastic. So
People who like to have fun. That's who
it's
that's who it's
it
for.
is so great. I did my other friend who I got to watch Trigun and said no to Attack on Titan. He didn't even make it through an episode of JoJo.
Oh,
He's like,
gee.
"What is this?" I'm like, "No, just go with it." He's like, "No."
But it gets so much better. Wait,
But
wait just a little while longer.
I love the whole campiness of it. It is just the chef's kiss of camp. And even like the accents are terrible and the acting is horrible. Like, so I know that there's like all sorts of like the dub versus the sub, and I totally get that, and I totally get um voice acting in Japan is an absolute art. like to listen to what they're doing and the emotion they put in. Like I have so much respect for the Japanese voiceovers. They are amazing. However, I'm an English voice actor and I'm interested in doing dubbing, especially for anime. So I need to focus more on that. And I think I do get more enjoyment. Like I fun fact, I started watching Attack on Titan in Japanese just because of the way the Crunchyroll was set up at the time. I actually couldn't find the English dub, and I'm like, maybe it doesn't. I don't know, So I started watching in
Interesting.
Japanese, and then halfway through, found it in English dub and started watching it from there on out. And then, like I was saying, I watched it for a second time, and then when it came to the third time, I'm like, I'm gonna watch this in Japanese, and I couldn't do it because I missed my
Huh.
friends too much. I'm like, I miss the way they sound. So I think that there's room in this world for sub lovers and dub lovers alike.
Totally. And it's always so nice when viewers are able to, for any film, any type of animation, whether it be um, US style animation or anime, when people are able to find this connection with a character,
Mm-hmm.
um, when you're able to create that bond with them and be
Mm-hmm.
like, I love them, not just because they may look cool or they did something cool this one time, but actually because of the performances that are given
Mm-hmm.
and because of the
Mm-hmm.
stories that they tell in the
Mm-hmm.
narrative, it when it resonates with people and it touches them and people find a true love for them, it's always such an awesome thing to look at to be like, wow, who
Yeah.
would have thought that? I wonder what those people are thinking now, uh,
Yeah.
because their work and what they helped to create, it has impacted people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It definitely would be kind of a bit of a dream come true to be able to meet Johnny Young Bosch one day, who did the voice of Vash, because he is always Vash to me. I hear him in other things, and I'm like, oh Vash, you're always my Vash. And it was such a relief when they did the Trigun reboot, Stampede. Like, bless their hearts for getting him back. Because that's just, don't you dare cast anybody else's Vash. No. So yeah, that is. I don't tend to have like VO idols or anything like that. There's not really anybody that I like look up to necessarily, but if I get a chance to shake Johnny Young Bosch's hand, or Bryce Pappenbrook who does Aaron, or
That
Trina Nishimura who does Mikasa, they're definitely my top. Like I would get the vapors. I'd be like, hey guys. Or I mean, of
but
course, Matthew Mercer too, who does Levi.
oh my God. And Bryce Papenbrook and Matthew Mercer, both of them, they're not only are they both very talented gentlemen, but they're just so cool and they're very personable, and I've yet to meet them myself. But I'm with you, Allison. I
Yeah,
definitely one day I want to be like, oh,
and
honey, bumping into you here. Where
I
have
will
you
also I
been?
I will also give a shout out to J. Michael Tatum who does Ervin,
Mm,
because that role, you could so easily have messed that up. And you, like I actually, my alarm in the morning that goes off every morning is Ervin's speech. And again, no spoilers, but you know the one. And every day I wake up to that. I've got it memorized. I shout right along with him, and that is peak voice acting right there. Yeah.
that's actually a good segue into one of my other final questions is there would you say, from all the media that you've consumed and the types of media that you watch, Allison, that there are influences in any voice that you've done or a performance you've done where you've been like, "Ooh, that's something I could use. Ooh, that's nice too." Is there any? is there any effect that may go into it for you?
Um, Nothing specific. Like I know that a lot of people get their start by aping other people, and that's never really been something that I've done. There are a couple that I'm like, yeah, I got this. But I think maybe more so of like I'll hear someone do it and try to like have the same emotion behind it. Like I actually, I actually transcribed Armin's speech at one point where like he's got to yell, but it's also there's a lot of emotion in it too, and I transcribed the whole thing, and it's this is one of the things that you just have to get used to as a voice actor, like the weirdness of sitting down in front of a microphone and saying stuff. And especially if you're a character, like pretending to be a character, like, or walking around your apartment giving a speech about like this titan could be our only hope. It's just like these things that you just have to do. That's how you learn and that's how you grow. And a lot of it does come from mimicry, from there are times where I'll be watching an anime and like somebody will deliver a line and I'll press pause and I'll deliver it back, and you feel like
I do that.
such an idiot.
I
But
do that
it's
myself. I do that
yep,
myself all the time.
that is how you learn and you grow, and that is the thing with voice acting, is that you have got to do that. There's nobody, like you were even saying, like, people who are accomplished actors, you put them behind a microphone and it's weird. You have to get used to it. It's like learning to speak a foreign language. Like you can hear the word in your head, you know what the word means, but your mouth is not used to producing that word, so it comes out completely wrong and you're like, what just happened? You're like, that's not how I meant it to come out. And it's only by aping people, it's only by recording yourself and listening back and trying it again and trying it again. And even for me, like just the other day, I was doing some dubbing for a company. I don't know where it is, somewhere far away, and there was just one line, and it was like supposed to be like, okay, yeah, this is not really cool at all. But she says like unbelievable, and I did that line probably like 30 times, and it was just like, why can't I get this to come out right? It's one line, but it was like the way I was hearing in my head, I couldn't get my vocal cords to go along with it. And it's just, you just got to keep doing it until, and then the more you do it, the more skill you're going to get it. Like just today, an audition came through and I was like, cool, let me see what I can do with this. Bing, bang, boom. And it was probably like 15 minutes that I spent on it. Whereas even 4 months ago, that would have taken me half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, trying to like, wait, okay, well, what happens if I do this? Okay, well, what happens if I do this? Okay, well, what, this and that. So it's over the time you get to hone it more and more and more until finally you get to that point where you can, just come in. Okay, what's the character? All right, I got this. Here we go. And then just like deliver it. And, but even for me, I think that's still a couple of years off. But that's the cool thing, is that like that's where you go. That you know that you're going on that path and you're getting there little by little.
It takes time, and sometimes
Oh,
patience is a
so
virtue.
much patience.
Um, but it'll it all helps to the many times you will fail or it won't come out right, and you'll be like, "Ugh, this is so frustrating," but it's all a part of the journey, and it takes time to hone in that
And this
craft.
is this is right here. So you can see me like right here. This is what I've got hanging up in my booth. I don't know if you agree. Yes, honest criticism is 1,000 times more valuable than empty praise. That is 100% the truth. You do not, if you take a workshop or a course, I mean, like, well, I mean, workshops, that's the word can mean different things, but it's like sometimes you'll take a workshop and you get like 5 minutes, and of course the instructor goes like, "That was great. Now try it a little bit,
Ugh,
like just this and that. Oh, you
that's
did great. All right, next." It's like kind of
that's
churning you
that's the
through.
worst.
It's the worst, and you don't learn anything. You don't grow. It's when somebody says, like especially Angela, okay. And you're like, all right, here we go. Yeah, bring it on. Bring it on.
Ah, man,
All right,
lay it
here
on me.
you're like, all right, I've practiced this. This is gonna it's gonna blow her away. And she's like, okay, how did you feel? And you're like,
It's
well, I felt
like,
good until you said that. But then
was it
she
that
gives you
good?
she's like, okay, well, how about that? What did you see beforehand? What did you hear beforehand? Where are you? Like, create this scene. And then when you finally actually feel like you're in it, you're like, oh, now I get it. And that's what you need. You need the criticism. And trust me, I am a very thin skinned, empathic person who I'm going to cry at an eclipse,
Ditto,
y'all. It was
ditto.
really hard for me to keep going some days, but I know that so many people when they give me criticism, it's because they want to see me grow, and I want to grow. So it makes sense to actually listen to that criticism. And let me tell you this excellent bit. I love this little tidbit. This has stuck with me so hard. Is that when you go to a restaurant and you get your menu and you're looking at the menu, and you see maybe like 3 or 4 or 5, maybe even 6 things that sound good. You're like, oh, this all sounds so good. Oh, this looks amazing. You have to choose one. And if you choose the hamburger, you're thinking like, oh, maybe I want the chicken fingers, but you get the hamburger. That doesn't mean the chicken fingers are bad. That just means like that wasn't right for tonight, for this one particular moment when you had to choose something. And that is really important to keep in mind. Like, just because you weren't chosen for a role doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're not right for that role. That person could have like really thought like, man, they're so good. I so could eat that person for dinner tonight. But you know what? I'm just slightly feeling more like eating this other person who happens to be a hamburger. And that's all it comes down to.
Yeah, and especially I know of myself for certain. I've had I'm as I said, I'm that same way of I'm a very empathetic person, and sometimes I'm very sensitive and keyed into things. Hooray for being a Pisces. Um, but I feel I've definitely, at least when I look back, because sometimes it's hard to gauge how much we've all grown when we look at things from a day-to-day basis. But if we look back in the long run where we were as to where we are now, I myself have noticed I've gotten better when it comes to accepting criticism. Because if back in the day when I was younger, I probably definitely would have broken down, gotten frustrated, and like probably would have stormed out and been like, "Ah, forget this. I just can't do it." And but now I've become more accepting to be like, criticism doesn't essentially mean I suck.
Mhm.
Criticism is actually a good thing
Mhm.
because there's room for growth and people are trying to help get to that growth. So
Yeah, absolutely,
criticism
100%.
is more of a friend, a little more of a friend to me than it
Mhm.
was years ago.
Yeah, and it's so worthwhile to actually like stop and listen. And again, like, because most people that are giving you that criticism, especially if it's in the VO community, because like we're all pretty freaking amazing, and we all legitimately want to see people succeed. Like, I will yell it from the high hills of like, I have never met a more compassionate and understanding group of people than I have in the VO world. It's amazing.
So come join us, y'all.
Yeah, yeah, like,
Join
and
us in our family.
100%, like, it will, if you're new and if you're looking for answers, like, I will say, like, I'm here, Spencer's here, like the people in the Discord are here. feel free to reach out, but at the same time, like, because I see a lot of people like reaching out to people with, hate to say, like, dumb questions. Like, Google it. Don't reach out to someone and be like, "Hi, I'm just starting out. What mic should I get?" I don't know.
Do a
um,
little
do a
research.
little research first, and then, and the thing is, it's like, I know how um what's the word? So seductive it could be, maybe, to like, to just like reach out and be friends with all of these people because they look so cool. And
Yeah.
I totally know because I've been there. But doing it in a more organic fashion is just so much better, because then you're going to find the people that you actually really resonate with. It's like, there are people that I've wanted to just like, hey, I think we'd be BFFs. Um, but instead of just going at that, because, and again, like, I get some people like DMing me that are just like, hey, where are you from? What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I don't even know you. But at the same time, it's like, because of the circles we're in, like, I met Spencer and we hit it off. And there's another woman who I met through TikTok, and we are like super ridiculous good friends now, because we we kind of grew that over time. And it absolutely can happen. Like, all these people that you're looking up to, that you're like, oh, they'll never accept me. Just mention something on one of their posts. Say, like, instead of saying like, oh my God, you're so great, let's be friends, just say, oh my God, you're so great, that's really inspiring. And then, like, a little bit later, like, find something that you have in common. There's actually a British VO that I really looked up to, and I'm like, oh my God, you're really cool. You do all this stuff. And then we would have like little interactions here and there. And one day I found out that she had degus. And I'm like, what? Tell me more about the degus. And she was, and I'm like, oh, yes, I've always been interested in them. I have rats. And she's like, you have rats? What? And now we're good friends because of that. But it's definitely, you're going to find your people. Just keep being friendly, and see what happens in the friendships, because there definitely will be friendships. I have so many friends in this community. It's amazing.
It's something to also add on to that, because that was beautifully said, Allison, is something to also bear in mind with that as well, is to don't spread yourself too thin, in terms of, I know it is so tempting to want to reach out to all these people and get on good terms and go back and forth and be friends, because cool, more friends, people to
Mm-hmm.
talk to, and just chat with. It's what could be better. However, that being said, it's also, if you do that, you may also find times where it's a little hard to like keep up with a lot of things,
Yeah.
and that doesn't do any good in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And it could potentially lead to some burnout, which
Mm-hmm.
is never fun,
Mm-hmm.
especially someone in a creative field like voiceover work or design or anything like that. So
Yeah, I
socialize and
I will say
network by
too
all
that
means.
with social media, coming as somebody who is Gen X, and who is like, hey, I want to have this VO career. I see a lot of VOs that are very active on social media. Guess what? There are plenty of VOs who are not. They don't even have social media accounts, and they still find their own path in VO. And having a social media account is definitely one of those routes, and it absolutely can connect you faster with people. But if you don't want to, that's fine. You don't have to. Or if you're really intimidated by it, just start. Like, that's, if I scroll back and watched my first Instagram video, I would probably throw up. But
Wouldn't we all?
yeah, exactly. And every single person who has any sort of like traction on any sort of social media, they would too. They're awful. The first ones you produce are always going to be bad, but little by little, you learn more and more what works, what doesn't work. So keep going out there, keep putting the feelers out, but know that it isn't absolutely essential. You better enjoy it, because it should be fun. If you're not having fun, you're gonna have those days where you're like, oh, I don't really want to do this, but I'm gonna do it anyway. You know, that's an exception. If you're not I love, like you said, like Chris Greenfield. He does a lot of the duets. I freaking love those duets. Like, I don't
They're
care if
so
people
good.
watch them or don't watch them. I love making them. And I have another thing that I do, which is, what's my line? Where am I? No, who am I? Who am I? What's my line? And where are my pants? And for that one, I'll take three 20-sided dice, and I have, actually have this. It's close at hand, and I have the list of modifiers. So I'll roll the 20-sided dice,
Oh.
and maybe I'll get a deranged paranoid dragon, and then I have lines that I draw from, and I'll have to deliver that line as a deranged paranoid dragon. And stuff like this is actually on my website. Like, yeah, go to AlisonCossett.com. You'll find it. I think it's called Game On. This is on my website that you can download and play yourself. And that's great for like honing the characters and things like that. But I love doing them. I love, a lot of times I'll come in and I'll be like, hey, I'll do one, and then I'll be like, that was a lot of fun. Let me do a second one. So they should be fun. You should be having fun on social media. And if you're not, then you don't have to worry, unless you
Yeah.
want to worry about it. Because
That
like also as actors, we worry a lot about stuff. Like for every
yeah.
successful voice actor out there, they have a complex. They worry all the time. I know we're wrapping up, but this one lovely story that really warms my heart is a couple months ago there's a voice actress who reminds me of me. Like, she's very smiley, she's very warm and welcoming and lovely. And I actually found myself getting frustrated with her because she was further along in her career and she was getting more work. Like, she was always posting like, I've done this, I've done this. And I'm like, oh, that's great. And I'm like, oh God, like that is so toxic. I hate that. I don't want to be that person. Um, and then around the same time, she posted something about she had a really rough day and, said like, this happened and this happened. So I messaged her. I reached out and I was like, hey, I've seen you sometimes in workshops and things like that. I just want to let you know that I really think your work is tremendous. And, you really inspire me. And I'm sorry that you're going through a tough time. And in my head, because it's like, again, if we're an empath and usually a creative, we create the narratives in my head where she like looks at it and goes like, why should I care? You're a nobody VO. And she wrote back the sweetest message of like, thank you so much for reaching out. I was really second guessing everything. Like, this is a shambles, and and all my files are just, I don't know what I'm doing anymore, and I just feel like everything I do is awful. And it was such an eye opener, and like we were able to like go back and forth, and now I'm so happy and so proud to say that she's a friend. And now whenever I see her post anything, I am so excited and happy for her. And I think like that's the important thing to know, is that just because somebody's getting like a little modicum of notoriety here and there and they have the wins, like we're all very empathic people who are living in a 4x4 booth pretending to be other people. And I think that indeed is why the voiceover community is so understanding and welcoming, is because like I think we all have a little bit of that going on, and we all see it we see ourselves in each other. And so I think that's why it's really important that we continue to do that and continue to lift each other up and continue to be honest about where we're at and what we're feeling. And it's interesting to me because you hear imposter syndrome a lot, and I'm
I know it well.
the thing is, I'm egotistical enough to not really have imposter syndrome. I'm like, I know I'm good. I know I'm not great yet, and I know that I have a lot of work to do, but I know that I can slay. And I think I have just enough to like really, really bring it. But that's why I'm doing so well. You know, a lot of people in their first year don't even book anything. And I have managed to really light a fire under this. And I think it's because of the acting background and it's the foolish, false sense of confidence coming into something and being like, all right, I can do this. But, you know, it really has helped.
Stellar. And it's also some awesome words of advice for viewers at home, especially
Mm-hmm.
that the whole the talk about imposter syndrome. And I do remember that you shared that story with me when we chatted the other day about we may see someone online who may just be having it looks like they're having the best time of their life, and they're on top of the mountain, they're crushing it, they're doing great. And reality, when cameras aren't rolling and we aren't posting, life could totally suck for that
Mm-hmm.
person. And here we are looking at someone else thinking, oh my God, I
Yeah.
want to be that way.
Yeah.
And
They're
how
so
dare you feel that
lucky.
way?
Yeah.
But that's kind of a fantastic story for just to show others that you've experienced it firsthand, that eye-opening moment to be like, oh, you're not feeling super as you're posting about?
Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
you're a human? What?
you have emotions
What?
on the internet?
Mm-hmm.
But I know
You're
for
just
and
pretending to be happy? What?
what is this masking nonsense? Get out of here with that.
No idea. What could that be?
Never heard of it in my life. But yeah, that was actually my last question that I had, which you've answered in spades beautifully, is
Aw.
words of advice that you have for those at home who are
Mhm.
up and coming and who are looking to grow their presence and their brand. It's uh, my takeaway of it is to not be as intimidated by others as don't be intimidated by others, and don't let them control what you do and how you should feel at all times. Just be you, have fun. That's
And
my takeaway from that.
I will add to that that if this is something that you're interested, it is very difficult. It is so rewarding, um, but you have to really, really love doing it. Um, and I would say just start making connections because again, there's so much information out there. It can be overwhelming, and it is. And anyone who tells you that like they're like this is it, this is what you need to know, that's probably one side of it. I was in a workshop one day where a voice actress who does a lot of commercials said, obey the punctuation absolutely every time. That is your roadmap. Do not stray from the punctuation. Literally 2 days later, I was in a workshop with an agent who was like, who cares about punctuation, just make it your own. So that nobody has all the answers. Your journey is going to be your journey that only you walk, and you're making it up as you go along. And what's going to help you figure that out is the people in your circle, who are going to guide you like each step of the way. So you know, have the humility, but also have the confidence. And yeah, if you reach out to people, you know, don't reach out to ask what mic you should be using, but if you have really, you know, genuine questions, yeah, reach out to us.
Totally. Don't be shy to ask and
Mm-hmm.
get some answers, because
Because
we're all here to
every
learn.
single one of us that is where we're at today, it's we're like we're walking with this whole group of people. Like there are just so many aspects to voice acting. Can't you can't just figure it out on your own. Like you absolutely need the help of others, and that's what we're here for.
100%. We're here to support each other till the very end.
Hell yeah.
Alrighty, Allison.
Which will be
Before I
Monday because there'll be an eclipse and more earthquakes, and that'll be that. So you know, nice knowing y'all.
Let's all hold it together. We can do this. Hey, Allison. Before we sign on off tonight, tell us, because I know that you told us a little earlier what some of your socials are, but where in the wide world can we all find you? Tell us where we can find you and learn more about you.
So, I have never been happier to have a very unique name as when I became a voiceover actor. And I am the one and only Allison Cossett in the whole world. And so I am very easy to find. I am simply www.allisoncossett.com, and that's my website. And then on Instagram, Allison Cossett, boom. On TikTok, my original Allison Cossett TikTok account got banned because I was doing too many villain monologues, and they thought it was hate speech, so they banned me. uh,
Interesting.
so now I am Allison Cossett VO on TikTok, and I try not to do as many villain monologues. Oh yeah, and then I'm on the husk of Twitter, now known as X. And again, I think I'm just Allison Cossett. So, I mean, like if you go to my website, you'll find them all. I think I'm also apparently on LinkedIn. I'm absolute shit at using LinkedIn. One of these days, I'm gonna get it together, but today is not the day.
Just just in case as backup, you do have it.
I do have it,
Presumptive
yeah. If
material.
if
It's
I ever
there.
want to get all professional, I've got it. But yeah, it's there.
Perfection. Perfection. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know the assignment as always. You need to go do your homework and go ahead and follow. Go ahead and follow Allison on all platforms. Go show her some love and go see all the amazing work that she does because it
And the
is amazing.
rats. And the
And
rats,
the rats also
of
because
course.
they're so they are freaking adorable. I've seen your posts on them and they're the sweetest. They are the sweetest ever.
I
With
love them.
that, with that though, before we go, got to give a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, round of applause, as always, please, to our special guest,
And
Allison
for
Cossett.
y'all for listening to me go on and on. I'm definitely you give me a little bit, and I'm gonna take all I can. Like, let me talk about me.
But we love that here.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
why I have this shit. That's why I have this podcast in the first place. We gotta
Also,
have
fun fact: I am an introvert. I'm an introvert. I am an introvert who likes to appear on things and put on the makeup and do all this crazy stuff, and then it goes off and I'm like, oh, thank God. I can be alone now. So for all of you introverts out there, who are like, I love the spotlight but maybe I don't want to be on stage or on camera or whatever, voice acting is the way to go. It's full of introverts and we're awesome.
life. The truth. There has never been a life hack better than that one right there. If you're an
Absolutely.
introvert, VO work is your in.
Mm-hmm.
But do your homework at the same time.
Absolutely.
Do it.
Do it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that just about does it for tonight. This has been episode 5 of Are You Saurious? And it's been a pleasure as always to see you all on here. And again, go give Allison some love. She is freaking amazing. And until next time, everybody, stay scaly and have a great night, y'all.
Bye. Love and
Bye.
peace.